Imagine two completely vastly different versions of paradise. Like, in one, you have baby rats occasionally falling onto your bed while you sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the local rodents routinely chew holes right through your favorite clothes. But every single day, you sit by this pristine river, you eat fresh mangoes, and you laugh loudly with a deeply connected community.
Okay, that's quite a picture.
Right. Now, in the other version, you live in this sprawling, ultra-secure villa. You can leave your doors wide open, leave your lawnmower out in the yard for weeks without a second thought. Just absolute safety.
Sounds pretty ideal.
It does. But in the second scenario, you go entire months during the winter without speaking a single word to another human being. So the question is, which of those two extremes is the formula for true happiness?
I mean, it sounds like some kind of extreme philosophical thought experiment, right? Like something designed to test human limits.
Yeah.
But it's actually a grounded reality because we spend our entire lives trying to, optimize our environments for this really elusive concept of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And we usually do that by layering on more comfort, more money, more convenience.
Always more. Yeah.
Right. Yet when we strip away all the theoretical frameworks and actually look at extreme lived environments, the architecture of human joy looks completely different than what modern society tells us to build.
And that brings us perfectly to our mission for today's deep dive. We are deconstructing this totally fascinating essay titled My Understanding of Happiness. It was written by Xuefeng in February of 2024, and the translation was edited by Kinyu.
It's a really unique text.
It is. And what drew me to this piece immediately wasn't even just the philosophy, it was this highly quirky structural detail right at the very beginning.
Oh, the four phenomena thing.
Yes. Xuefeng opens up by boldly stating, let's first look at the following four phenomena to illustrate the essence of happiness. So, he sets up this expectation of four distinct pillars. But if you read the text closely, he only provides three actual life stories before abruptly pivoting to his grand conclusion.
Which is such a funny quirk. But that missing fourth phenomenon, it's actually a brilliant rhetorical space, even if it was accidental.
Wait, how so?
Well, you're left scanning the text for this final story, right?
Hey.
Only to realize that the three environments he does present are so intensely contrasting that they basically force a synthesis.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, so the fourth phenomena, in a very practical sense, becomes your own life.
Yeah.
Like you are meant to hold your own daily routine up against these three radical laboratories of human experience.
To see where our own formula is failing.
Exactly.
Well, we're going to put those three laboratories under the microscope today, and we're starting with the absolute baseline of human survival, which is his childhood scarcity.
And it was true scarcity.
Utter scarcity. Xuefeng paints this incredibly vivid picture of his youth in rural China. And, we need to be clear about the level of material deprivation here. There was zero electricity.
None.
No running water. No radio, television, or mobile phones. You couldn't just, walk into a store and buy a ready-made shirt. Fabric was purchased, and clothes were all made by hand.
The physical exertion required just to maintain a baseline of existence back then is staggering.
He notes that during the brutal winters, all their drinking water was spring water that had to be physically carried in wooden buckets from a source 2 kilometers away.
Carrying water 2 kilometers in freezing temperatures, that is the definition of physiological stress.
Seriously.
Yet, what's fascinating here is the way he contextualizes this period of his life completely lacks resentment. Like there's no bitterness.
None at all.
He describes a daily routine that is just entirely integrated with his physical environment. He spent his summers catching fish by the canal, herding sheep on the river beach.
Pulling pigweed in the cornfields, yeah.
Exactly. His leisure time wasn't passive consumption. It was active, shared engagement. Playing hide and seek or playing poker with friends. Even his economic activity was hyperlocal and physical.
Oh, like the egg bartering.
Right. He describes carefully carrying this basket with a dozen eggs to the local store just to barter for really basic necessities like kerosene and salt.
Okay, so I want to push back on this a little bit, though, because I feel like there's a really common trap here. I call it the camping trip effect.
The camping trip effect. Okay, tell me more.
Well, it's like how today people will pay thousands of dollars to go to some off-grid retreat in the woods, right?
Okay.
We actively finance our own temporary deprivation to feel, grounded.
Right, to unplug.
Yeah. But when you are forced into that life permanently, when you literally have no new clothes and you're bartering eggs just to light a lamp in your house, is the happiness he describes real? Or is he just looking through rose-tinted glasses?
That's a fair question.
Like, is this forced community actually happiness, or is it just a trauma bond born out of sheer survival necessity?
Well, that is the critical distinction we have to make here. It isn't that hauling freezing water is inherently joyful, obviously, nor is he just romanticizing hardship.
Okay, so what is it then?
What we're really looking at is the mechanism of a closed-loop social ecosystem. Think about modern society. We have systematically engineered friction out of our lives.
Totally.
You want food, you tap a glass screen, and it arrives at your door. You want warmth, you turn a dial. But by removing the physical friction of survival, we've also removed the social infrastructure that used to accompany it.
Oh, wow. So when he walked to the store to barter those eggs for salt,
Right. That wasn't just an economic transaction, it was a necessary social touch point.
the friction itself is the social glue.
Precisely. His survival and his socialization were completely indistinguishable from one another. When a community lacks automated conveniences, it's literally forced to rely on a synchronized human network.
You have to depend on each other.
You have to. And the psychological payoff of that network is a deep, unshakable sense of belonging and utility. He felt happy not because he was poor, but because his environment demanded that he be entirely present and essential to the people around him.
That makes a lot of sense. So if absolute physical integration and shared necessity form one extreme of the human experience, his next chapter tests a really fascinating variation of that model.
Yes, the Vanuatu trip.
Right. So what happens when you strip away the familiar culture and the childhood innocence, but you keep the severe material hardship? As an adult, Xuefeng spends 2 months living with a primitive tribe in Vanuatu, Oceania.
And the physical reality of this environment makes hauling water look somewhat tame, honestly.
It really does. The Vanuatu experience completely strips away any romanticism you might have about living close to nature.
Definitely.
He's placed in this guest house provided by the tribal chief, which is basically just a drafty, thatched roof structure with a literal sand floor.
He relies on a bucket under the eaves just to catch rainwater for drinking.
Yeah, and he has to source the solar panel from a distant city just to generate enough power to charge a phone for some basic lighting.
It's incredibly bare bones.
And we have to talk about the rats.
Oh, the rats.
Because this detail is just impossible to ignore. Here's where it gets really interesting for me. He explicitly describes a rat's nest in the thatched roof directly above him.
Right above his bed.
Yes. From time to time, baby rats would literally plummet from the ceiling onto his bed while he was there.
Just horrifying.
And he hung a shirt and a pair of pants on the grass wall, and within a few days, the local rodent population had chewed holes right through them.
They ruined his clothes.
Right. Now, for most of us, an environment where wildlife is actively destroying our clothing and, falling on us while we sleep, that would trigger immense psychological distress.
Oh, completely.
We would label it a nightmare. Absolutely not. Does this mean true happiness requires us to abandon basic hygiene and comfort?
Well, no. But the psychological output of this environment for the local people, and eventually for Xuefeng himself, is overwhelming joy.
Despite the falling rodents.
Despite the rodents.
Yeah.
Because he observes this communal life that is just so vibrant and loud. At night, he hears the tribe shouting, singing, and dancing.
And during the day.
During the day, their architecture literally reflects their social structure. They gather under these thatched roofs that have absolutely no walls. They sit on old carpets, boiling water over raw stone stoves to make this simple tea from local leaves.
And the diet is just as elemental. He describes shared papaya, bananas, mangoes.
It's just what grows around them.
Yeah, and occasionally they slaughter a cow and divide the meat among the entire community. He points out that there are 0 condiments available, like not even spices, only salt.
And they bathe and wash their laundry in the clear rivers.
Which sounds beautiful, but again, I have to ask, baby rats falling on my bed, hard pass. Is he really saying we need this level of discomfort?
Well, the rodents and the lack of walls aren't the source of the joy. They are a testament to its resilience.
What do you mean by resilience?
What this Vanuatu laboratory proves is that when the core human need for profound, unfiltered connection is met, the psychological baseline becomes incredibly robust.
Oh, so the happiness is just strong enough to withstand the rats.
Exactly. The physical discomfort doesn't destroy the joy, because their identity isn't tied to the intactness of a shirt on the wall. Their identity is tied to the communal tea boiled over that stone stove.
It's a completely low-barrier social ecosystem.
Yes, exactly. A house with no walls offers no privacy, but it also offers 0 barriers to connection. The environment forces an outward orientation. You can't isolate yourself in a wall-less hut, right?
I literally can't.
So the psychological takeaway here isn't that you need rats to be happy. It's that a rich, shared, present-tense community completely overrides the psychological damage of material poverty.
That is so profound. But then Xuefeng completely flips the script on us. We move from this environment of intense, forced social immersion amidst physical discomfort to the absolute inverse.
The complete opposite end of the spectrum.
Right. We arrive at his 7 years spent living in rural Canada, and this setting strips away the community almost entirely, but it maximizes physical security to an astonishing degree.
Canada really serves as the control group for the variable of autonomy. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the setting is this vast, sparsely populated landscape of individual villas.
Huge contrast to the Wallace huts.
Huge. And the social dynamics he describes are jarringly quiet compared to the singing in Vanuatu.
Interaction is almost non-existent. He notes that the community only loosely gathers at the local supermarket.
Or for something incredibly niche like an annual garlic festival.
Yes, the Garlic Festival.
Yeah.
He mentions people attending church on Sundays, but he implies that this is really just the only functional mechanism left for humans there to maintain a baseline tether to their species.
Just a reason to get out of the house.
Exactly. And for 7 years, he never encounters a police officer or a government official at his home. He barely interacts with neighbors.
It's extreme isolation.
Especially during those brutal Canadian winters. The environment just forces him indoors for months on end, where his whole routine is reduced to staying warm, eating, sleeping, and surfing the internet.
I mean, on paper, it sounds like a recipe for severe clinical depression, especially based on everything we just discussed about Vanuatu in his childhood.
Right. So what does this all mean? We went from a hyper-social, rat-infested tropical tribe to a hyper-isolated, ultra-safe Canadian villa. How can both of these be examples of happiness?
That is exactly what makes this third laboratory so vital.
Yeah.
Because alongside this extreme isolation is a profound, almost unthinkable level of security.
The unlocked doors.
Yes. He describes going to Vancouver for days at a time and just leaving his gate open. His house doesn't even have anti-theft doors or barred windows.
He leaves his lawnmower and carts sitting out in the yard, goes away, returns, and nothing is ever touched.
Never. And if he wants to sleep on a Sunday, he is never, ever disturbed.
So it's absolute peace.
Right. To understand why this isolation is categorized as happiness, we have to look at the human nervous system. In Vanuatu, or in his childhood, the nervous system is regulated through community. You feel safe because you're part of a pack.
Makes sense.
But in Canada, the nervous system is down-regulated through the absolute absence of external threats. There's no state interference, no crime, no forced labor to survive the elements. It is the purest form of environmental autonomy.
Okay, so we're basically dealing with a resource allocation problem.
How so?
Well, Vanuatu maximizes the social cohesion variable, but it scores 0 on physical comfort and individual autonomy.
Right.
And Canada maximizes physical security and autonomy, but totally starves the social cohesion variable.
Exactly.
Which brings us to how Xuefeng finally synthesizes these extreme laboratories into a unified theory of human joy. He actually provides a highly specific formula, and we really need to unpack the mechanics of this checklist because every single item serves a structural purpose.
The synthesis is where the brilliance of his observation truly crystallizes. He basically takes the raw data from the wooden buckets, the wall-less huts, and the unlocked Canadian doors and engineers a perfectly balanced framework.
It's like a recipe. Let me read his exact criteria for the essence of happiness because it's so specific.
Go for it.
He lists simplicity, frugality, having clothes to wear, a house to live in, and food to eat.
The basics.
Right. Then he requires being in the mood to sing and having the physical strength to dance.
I love that.
Then, crucially, he mandates no monthly bills.
Ah.
Yeah, that's a big one. He specifies living near a river, stream, or lake, having a field to plant vegetables, raising a dozen sheep, a dozen chickens, and a few cows.
Specific numbers there.
Right, not being bullied or oppressed. And finally, having just a few people to chat and laugh with. It's like he's saying, if you mix no monthly bills with a dozen chickens and a stream, you bake the perfect cake of joy.
It really is a recipe. And if you look closely at that list, it's not just a poetic description of a farm life. It is a masterclass in the economics of sufficiency.
Sufficiency, yeah.
Notice the specific quantities he uses, like you mentioned. He doesn't say start a massive livestock enterprise. He says raise a dozen sheep.
Why does that distinction matter so much?
Because a dozen sheep feed your family, and provide local utility. 100 sheep require a spreadsheet, hired labor, supply chain logistics, and stress.
That turns into a job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A dozen sheep represents a self-sustaining, closed-loop ecosystem. 100 sheep represents capitalism and the immediate introduction of external pressures.
Oh, wow.
By keeping the scale small, he protects the autonomy he experienced in Canada, but he integrates the physical connection to nature that he experienced in his childhood.
That perfectly explains the most jarring item on his list for me, which was no monthly bills. Out of all the lyrical imagery of streams and singing and dancing, he drops in this harsh, modern financial metric.
It stands out, doesn't it?
It really does. But if we apply your ecosystem analogy, the monthly bill is the ultimate extraction mechanism.
It is the ultimate tether. A monthly bill is a recurring threat to your survival and your autonomy. When you have overhead, you are forced to engage in labor that might not serve your well-being, just to maintain your baseline.
Just to keep the lights on.
Right. The absence of monthly bills is the modern equivalent of his Canadian winter. It's a protective barrier that keeps the demands of the outside world from infiltrating your peaceful existence.
And he balances that extreme autonomy with a very metered dose of Vanuatu. Like, notice he doesn't want the whole singing village in his house. He just wants a few people to chat and laugh with.
Just a few?
He's engineered the perfect middle ground, enough security so your nervous system isn't constantly scanning for threats or scrambling for rent money, but enough physical engagement with nature and a small community so you don't end up isolated, surfing the internet for 6 months out of the year.
What Xuefeng has ultimately provided here isn't just a memoir or a story, but an actual audit tool for the modern listener. It's a resource allocation framework. He is asking us to look at our own lives and measure our inputs against these core variables: autonomy, physical health, connection to nature, and intimate community.
It's brilliant. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Xuefeng's source material, we have traveled from the freezing 2-kilometer treks for spring water
Through the rat-infested, yet very joyful huts of Vanuatu.
all the way to the pristine, isolated security of rural Canada. And we've landed on a remarkably specific blueprint for human flourishing that demands a really careful balance between self-sufficiency and genuine connection.
Which brings us right back to the missing fourth phenomenon from the very beginning. The final variable is you. Xuefeng ends his essay with a direct challenge to the reader, asking, what is your understanding of the essence of happiness?
To help you answer that, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought based on this exact framework. Xuefeng specifically names not having bills to pay every month as a core pillar of joy because it guarantees freedom.
So take a hard look at your own life and the things you currently consider absolutely essential to your happiness. The upgraded car, the premium subscriptions, the larger square footage, all the status symbols.
Yeah, how many of those essential comforts are actually creating the very monthly bills and low-level psychological pressures that Xuefeng argues destroy your autonomy? Are you trading your freedom for conveniences that don't even make you want to sing or dance?
It's a heavy question.
It is. We will let you audit your own ecosystem with that question. Keep interrogating the structures around you, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.